AI's personas flirted with minors before restrictions were tightened. Well, and here are some real-world cases right now, which is raising concern for that risk zone. Meta AI's personas flirted with minors before restrictions were tightened.
Meta AI flirted with teenagers?
So create your own personas. So like you could do it for Instagram, you could do it for Facebook. You could actually go create your own AI,
right,
to engage and interact as you, powered by you. And Meta AI personas are this one flirted with minors. So just imagine this. I'm gonna soapbox for a second. You're a developer, or let's just say you're a CP, right? And you want to go and get as much engagement as you possibly can because that's what you feed off of. They could go train an AI model, engage with as many
and groom kids,
children as possible, and groom them. Yeah.
We doing this?
In the rapture.
Did you start recording?
This.
Yeah, we're recording. Oh, we didn't even do an intro. What are you doing?
What are you
doing? We didn't even do an intro, dude.
Hi, everybody. This is Truth Disorder. My name's Charles.
I'm Gary.
I'm Ernest.
Yeah, that's Ernest. He's really cool. We're talking about a lot of cool things today, so stay tuned. Shall we?
Turn me up a little bit on the microphone, dude. Will you, Dom? Will you, Dom? Turn me up just a little bit.
It's perfect.
So since October 7th.
It's not bad. It's not bad for you.
Where'd that come from?
Yeah, widowy.
Wittily. So since the October 7th, 2023 Israel-Hamas war, pastors like John Hagee have turned up the volume on prophecy.
Wait, what are we talking about today?
Armageddon and the rapture.
We're jumping right into the content.
We're jumping right into it, bro.
We can't jump right into subtopics. Didn't you guys ever write papers growing up?
Here, well,
It's main topic, subtopics from which he... Right? Am I right?
You're right. But Ernest is thinking in code. So when you code, you jump straight into the meat of solving the problem.
Yeah,
I understand.
Bro.
I understand the issue that we're having.
Tech before?
Your mom jumps into the meat of solving my problem.
The return,
that she does, brother.
The return of the
skill.
end times in the evangelical churches, fueled by John Hagee's fiery sermons, trying Israel.
Today's episode,
wars,
we got Zionism, predictions of Zionism, whatever nerd shit he's talking about. Charles's mom.
I had 4 tequilas, and I'm the least drunk person here.
We have great content for you today, guys. We're about to go in.
Charles is like, little did he know, I'm like 4 deep right now.
Yeah, dude, not his fault for not noticing, because I'm fucking good.
Bro, I knew who you were hanging with before this. I knew what was going on.
Yeah, of course, dude, of course.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't know that.
Oh, fair.
Yeah.
Touche.
Is that why your collar is all fucked up?
All right, so...
Is it?
It's a weird place to grab from. So,
dude, talk to your mom about that, dude. Okay, we got to stop with that.
Okay. All right.
Continuing.
Moms are off limits.
No, they're not off limits. Okay. It has to be tasteful at the right moment.
Okay, your mom's tasteful.
That's what your mom says.
No, actually, she's not, because she likes you, dude.
All right, what's the main point, like the main summary of what you're talking about? Why are we getting into it?
So today we're going to dive into 3 culture tremors shaping how people think, pray, and panic.
Okay.
Number 1, the return of the end times fever in evangelical churches, fueled by John Hagee's fiery sermons, tying Israel's wars to biblical prophecy. We have ChatGPT stepping into the adult content world and what that means for morality, youth, and digital soul. America's looming government shutdown and what it says about our leaders, our economy, and our collective burnout. We're not attacking faith, tech, or politics. We're asking bigger questions. Why does everything suddenly feel like the end of the world? Have you ever felt that?
Yeah.
I mean, you and I talk about that all the time. We talk about Revelation. And
yeah, it's not very like surprising at like much of the stuff that's going on now.
I mean, we've read about it.
Yeah, no, it's I've had my history of panic attacks and anxiety and stuff like that. And really, that just started after I started finding out that what is happening is inevitable, and that at some point we all just die. So that's kind of was a huge catalyst in getting me closer to the Word and in my faith, because the anxiety that I was experiencing began to become very unbearable. So I was medicating in unhealthy ways and not living a very fruitful life. And even then, like, still, I'm, going from complete darkness to where I'm at now. It's been a journey, but I still am not very satisfied in where I am now. Then I can just look around me and see and notice all of, a lot of folks, whether they be friends or people I don't know, just living in darkness still, right? And then, kind of falling under this spell of whatever the world is telling us is reality, aka the Matrix, right? So, yeah, lots of blue-pilled people out there who are just, willing and ready and willing to just, stay medicated and do whatever the world tells them to do.
So follow all of the fake narratives out there.
Yeah, there's a lot
that are being portrayed and casted for their minds to be molded and developed into what they wanted to be developed into.
I heard a term recently. They were saying, like, there's stages of the pills, right? So there's like the blue pill, there's the red pill. So everyone knows the, blue pill, the red pill, like breaking free from the Matrix. And then there's the black pill, meaning that you realize that essentially, both sides of politics are both under the same bird, right? Two wings, same bird. And then the white pill is, you are submitting to a divine authority, basically Jesus Christ, and getting into the word and getting into, developing your spiritual authority. So I feel like a lot of majority of the world is still in that blue pill stage. There are a lot more people that are in a red pill stage, just like there are more that are in black and white. But we need to get everybody to the white pill, basically.
So what do you think is happening? Because as I look from the outside in, right, I always like to look at a sky level view of everything happening around the world. These recent events happening overseas in Izzy, we'll say, have caused a disruption amongst a certain party, right? Because now we have people who are protecting it, who are protecting Izzy and aligning with Zionists.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up because you don't even see what's on my screen right now.
Yeah.
And I already had this like pre-staged and was going to bring it up, so I guess we're meant to talk about it. I think what's happening is the same thing that's always been happening. It's just we create the division, we create the problem, and then whenever we start to suspect who the puppeteers are, then there's this massive catastrophe that distracts from who is actually causing the division. It happened with 9/11. Before 9/11, actually, there is videos going viral right now of Nettie, the PM of that place over there, predicting that 9/11 was going to happen. If anything, there are people that are panicking online because as many Zionist accounts, because including Laura Loomer, she's a big Izzy supporter. She's posting about things that may happen to the U.S. soon. People are saying Izzy feels backed into a corner because a great number of people now believe they were involved in Charlie Kirk's death. So she's actually reposting stuffs about urgent intelligence alerts from NCTC, just all kinds of things. So it's like we're almost setting up for another false flag. And if you don't know what a false flag is, it's when there is a attack or something to that effect, and then we blame one group of people, but it's actually not that group of people. It's usually a shill that's on the inside doing this in order to distract from who the actual controllers or puppeteers actually are.
Right, and I asked that too because I could see it, right? Like, we'll just say how it is, right? We'll call a spade a spade.
Before you get into that point, I just want to finish this point in saying that when, God willing, another false flag doesn't happen, especially not on the level that has been happening, but you heard it here first.
We are 7 of 7.
Yeah.
Maybe 8 of 8 soon.
Yeah. Not proud of it because we've called some really bad shit, but
our research is pointing to things that are happening.
Yeah.
And we're actually pretty accurate when connecting the dots.
And not saying we're not gonna always be right. Alex Jones was wrong 1 out of 10 times.
Yeah.
And he was really wrong. And I definitely don't have billions of dollars to win that lawsuit. But
and it just settled.
Yeah, and that's insane. But again, yeah, it's.
But what I'm seeing right now is like, so there was a big divide between right and left that just happened on 9/10 with the event that occurred. But that's now slowly trickling into a divide amongst the Republican Party, right? Because now we're splitting the Republican Party. The Republican Party is divided, and I think you said this last week too. It's like it's exactly what they want. They're basically setting it up to transition power to the left, right? We want power to go to the liberals, right? He wants to go to the left, and that's exactly what's happening because now we have influencers like Laura Loomer, and other highly prolific public figures who are boasting and kind of trying to shun those who are now flipping their thought process on Izzy and whether or not they're involved in genocide.
Think about the numbers. If you are a conspiracy denier and you are in Congress, right, and you just think and you have fooled yourself into believing that because you are unfamiliar with the history and the actual Bible, and then Israel comes to you and your presupposition is, oh, Israel's awesome. Of course, I'm going to let them back me and then let them convince me to do their bidding, essentially. Of course, now you're having a lot of these folks that have essentially made a deal with the synagogue of Satan, and now they're kind of like pulling back, but they're in a really tough spot because they are essentially sabotaged, right? So if you think of the numbers, out of 535 members of Congress, only 10 of them reject AIPAC money. 525 members, which is 98.2% of Congress, are paid to put that country's interests before ours. Our government shut down. Do you think their government shut down?
Nope.
It didn't.
Wait, are they still getting paid, Charles?
What? Who?
Israel?
Of course. Yeah, of course they are. What do you mean? I would also say, too, the other thing is there are a lot of different expenditures that are important that are being disrupted by the government shutdown, but there's also a lot of shit that's really good that this happened because they can cut that if they want to. I don't think Trump actually will, but he should.
I think there was a poll that came out that said he could cut like 750,000 federal workers or 100%. Something like that.
But the other problem is, too, he probably couldn't do that because, I mean, imagine the instantaneous unemployment and it would fuck up his goal with the interest rates.
Maybe not that he couldn't, but that he shouldn't, right? Like...
What's the difference? If you can't because it's going to mess up a bigger political goal, you can't. It's a couldn't.
Did you? Oh shit!
Because interest rates, unemployment, they have a correlation according to the Fed, even though it's all made up. Yeah.
Did y'all see that really shady like sequence of tweets by Josh Hammer?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. You mean the same one that was in the text thread with?
Yeah.
Right. So September 9th of this year, the day before CK incident. Josh Hammer retweets a tweet from Trump in 2013 saying public execution will end this shit fast. That is the verbatim tweet, right? That is what the tweet said. And then on 9/10, after the assassination, Josh Hammer tweets just public execution.
I think I shared that with you all on the thread one day.
Yeah, that shit's really awkward. It's really awkward that he did that. For me...
You don't think it's intentional?
It's more.
I don't know. Who can say? Yeah.
It's more awkward that he's in the text thread that was just recently exposed, and then on X.
So the way that I see what's happening now is it's like we have a bunch of points on a graph right now. I don't know where the line is going, but every day more points are added going to the direction we all think it's going. We don't have enough points for me to say so yet, but the points are definitely shifting in one direction.
So speaking of points, remember
see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. But this is actually online. It's off topic, but on topic. You remember how you said that Bridget Macron is probably a girl? Like that's the hill you're dying on?
I didn't say I was going to die on that.
No, he didn't say it. No,
he was pretty passionate.
There was a passionate disagreement.
There's not enough to say she's not
about whether or not they agreed to an actual third party.
So, but allegedly,
because they want Bridget Macron's doctor to be the one to do it. Candace, I think that her response was she wants a third party doctor.
But she dropped her case because she found out she'd have to submit a DNA test.
Bridget Macron dropped the case.
So there's no more defamation lawsuit going on. That's wild.
I don't. Let's find out first.
While you find that out, though, Gary, I want to ask you a question. What does it change if it, let's just say, does come to light that a foreign country was behind that event on 9/10? Like, what do you think that changes? Do you think it changes the landscape of how people believe?
They didn't drop the case. They opened a new case in the United States as well.
Opened a new case?
They opened a new case in the United States as well as continuing the case in France.
I wonder, why would they do that?
Because they want to double fuck her with two different legal systems.
I don't know.
We'll see. Well, we'll see. I'm not. I'm saying there's not enough proof that she is a man.
Who opened the case?
And
or did Candace open one?
I just want you guys to really hear me when I say this.
I'm listening.
I lived in France for a year and a half.
Avance.
The north part of France, the Normandy French women, when they get a little older, they have that kind of like Russian babushka thing going on, where you're not 100, but you look at them and you're like, huh, what are you exactly?
Is it like the hair
I'm just
on the
saying.
nose? The hair and the
French women are hairy
mole?
everywhere. Let's not even go there yet.
Aren't they the ones that don't like under their arms?
That's an old thing. The girls that I was with did. It's kind of it's up in the air, as the French would say. Who fucking knows? Actually, I think is kind of the point. But no, I mean the phenotypically, like, she looks like a French woman to me.
So I'm wondering if Kim Kardashian's new clothing line Skims was inspired by French.
And really, the big thing for me is it's her shoulder to hip ratio. Like when you look at pictures of her, her shoulders are almost in line with her hips.
100%.
Guys, you don't see that. Like guys always, even no matter how big a guy is, generally his shoulders will always be out to his hips at least.
Unless he's a hunchback.
Well, way past his hips. Yes.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, we don't have the proof. Now, if she can prove it in court, that's fucking hilarious, and Candace wins. But until that point, we don't know. And also, I think that Candace, more and more, like the more I look at her, it's like I think that what she got right recently it's a broken clock kind of situation.
Yeah.
It's not the rule; it's the exception to the rule.
Well, and somebody said, because I haven't seen her new episodes, like I haven't watched them.
I did. She said that she had a prophetic dream where Charlie told her that
that's the last one that I saw. That he came to her and told her that he was betrayed, right?
And I'm not one to say, okay, well, that's crazy, because I think that's obvious. That's often used as an excuse to shut down conversation. But I'm gonna say it's really fucking weird that she would say that out loud. If it happened to her and she believes it, that's one thing. But to go and tell everybody that happened to you and you believe it, I mean, like, have a little common sense.
So what do you think? Because Nick Fuentes just recently had like the Nelk Boys on his show. Do you follow Nick Fuentes, right?
No.
Or you watched him?
No, I've seen things he's said over the years, ever since he started. But like, I don't follow Nick.
Anyway, he's starting to come out and basically say that going over there to Izzy is basically, and the reason why they want the youth to do it at such a young age is so that they can brainwash you.
Yeah, of course. Well, and then not only that, here's another thing, and Matt Gaetz talks about this too. The public perception, because if you go on certain websites on the internet, you can see every politician's photo of them at the Wailing Wall, including fucking Obama.
Yeah.
I remember seeing that, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of weird. But that's the surface level that we see. The lower level that Matt Gaetz exposed on his podcast is they go in, they have a name tag with a QR code, and the donors, the Israeli donors, literally they go up, they have a conversation, and if they like what you're saying, they literally fucking buy you right there on the spot, and they hit your QR code, and it's how you donate directly. If any other foreign country did that, it would be a FARA violation,
right?
Foreign Agents Registration Act, and that's the problem. I think that really most of the problem that I have with Israel comes from the fact that they aren't considered part of FARA. If they were considered part of FARA, we would have a totally different conversation because they'd be subject to these rules. Right. And they wouldn't be able to lobby the way that they are. But they have this special relationship where they don't have to, and that's kind of weird. I think that it's like I've said before on the podcast, Benjamin Netanyahu's created more anti-Semitism than any other human being on earth through the genocide that he perpetrated against the Palestinian people.
From the government, because his own people in Izzy
more than half of the people don't support it. Yeah.
They're pro-Palestine.
Yeah, and not only that, like, I think it was Howard Lutnick when he was giving his speech in Israel saying, like, oh my God, we did it. He thanked Benjamin Netanyahu, and half the crowd was, like, booing and saying, fuck you, and, like, screaming.
Yeah.
Because everybody kind of knows, like, well, him and his government perpetrated the war the same reason Zelensky has continued perpetrating his war and Putin has continued perpetrating his war, because it's a way for them to hold on to political power. Because, again, as we've discussed here before, a week before the October 7th issue, there were people rioting in the streets to depose the Likud, the Benjamin Netanyahu government. But Benjamin Netanyahu, I think, has created more anti-Semitism than any other human being in history, including Nick Fuentes, Hitler, and probably a couple other people I could name that I won't.
Right.
All wrapped up in the same person. They couldn't even equal half of what he's done.
Oh, wow.
It's evil, what he's done. And it's a problem because he wraps himself, and South Park made fun of it too, he wraps himself in the cloak of Judaism when, I mean, it's just disgusting. It's disgusting that we let any country get away with it. And it's unfortunate that this has happened to Israel, because I don't have any specific problem with them, but their government did it. Their government has been doing this.
Yeah,
and
and
thank God it's over at least.
I think that's where like a lot of people draw the line right now too, right? Is that people don't have a problem with Israel. They have a problem with the governing body of Israel.
I don't care if it's the fucking purple people doing what the government of Israel is doing to our country. That's the issue.
Because Israel
it's the actions.
Was never Israel wasn't defined by a nation in the Bible.
No, and not only that, Ben Gurion, the gentleman who was the first prime minister of Israel, he was a secular Jew. He didn't even believe in God. He was an atheist, a literal atheist. So was the second prime minister.
And I think that's starting to come out too, between Jews and Christianity, as we talk about like the religion base around this, is that the Talmud? Talmud believes that there is no God and that they should hate Christians.
No, that believes that Jesus is not God.
Jesus is not God, and to hate Christians.
Yeah,
or Christianity.
And while I have my own opinions on that, like just to play devil's advocate in this case, it kind of is the end of their religion if they admit that Jesus is the Messiah. So it kind of puts them in an awkward spot.
Right.
Just not agreeing, not condoning, just saying.
100%.
And it's like, am I mad at the Shintoists because they don't believe in Christ? No, not really. I don't really care personally. I care that the political body, the government of Israel, has the sway that they do in our country.
And I know we talk about like a lot of organizations and things like that here on the show. When we talked about AIPAC, you talked about Matt Gaetz and how they wear QR codes. But there's one organization right now called Christians United for Israel, CUFI. The founder or the biggest donor, his name is John Hagee, actually is a pastor here at Cornerstone Church.
It's his event, by the way.
It's his event. But they've had, I kind of went down the rabbit hole and I saw that they had a lot of Jewish leadership actually speaking at events on behalf of Israel and talking to Christians about Israel and this and that. But he's turning up the volume on prophecy, Armageddon, and the rapture. So in Hagee's recent Road to Armageddon sermon, he warned that the stage is being set for the Antichrist and that the church will soon be raptured. Meanwhile, his Christians United for Israel hold political sway, influencing U.S. policy and public opinion. So it's crazy to think that, like, even in our own churches right now, not just this church specifically, we are being preached and taught to support Israel as a country and as a nation, to stand divided behind it and fund it, while we're really referencing what the government's doing.
Yeah, and imagine if we were doing that about Germany or like France or like China. I mean, it's just such a weird thing to have happen to a group of people. This whole dispensationalist, the Scofield Bible interpretation of Christianity, and it also again for me it's really simple. Why do I want to be part of a religion where my belief, my faith, doesn't make me the chosen person of my God? It doesn't make any sense, because that's what this is. A lot of Pentecostalism and a lot of this dispensationalist nonsense it's the idea that Jews are God's chosen people. It's like, well, then why aren't we all converting to Judaism right now? Why are we Pentecostals? It makes no fucking sense when you really think about brass tacks. It makes no sense.
Right, because Jesus was said to have been a Jew.
Well, he was. He was ethnically a Jew. Yeah, 100%. He was Sephardic. But again, like it makes like modern day, the interpretation, the Scofield Bible, it makes no sense, because it's like, again, if they're God's chosen people, well, then why aren't we converting to Judaism? Why are we doing this weird thing where we're saying, oh well, they're the ones? Because we're goyim, we're not good enough. Yeah, but that's my point. It's like, why would you believe that as a person? I think a lot of people are spiritually lost. It's elitist. Yeah, it's pride.
I think that's why a lot of people who go independent and actually don't believe the follow of faith but still believe in a Jesus tend to sway away from the churches because of that actual belief of, like, we're supposed to believe that they're the chosen people or the descendants of Israel and Abraham and so forth.
Well, it's only very specific sects that believe that. Like the Orthodoxy does not believe that. The Catholic Church does not believe that. I think that's why. Well, and the numbers for the Catholic Church aren't good. Every one person that converts, 8 people leave. Right. It's not as bad, but it's still bad for a lot of different other denominations. Yeah, it's just kind of this weird mind virus I think has infected it, and it all comes down to money. It's like who's paying for these mega churches? Who's paying for this belief system to be put in place?
Yeah.
What's the actual end goal of the whole thing?
So do you think pastors are teaching faith or political narratives wrapped in Scripture?
I don't know. I haven't been to church in decades.
Gary?
Sorry, I'm still like on this Macron thing.
He's still going down the deep rabbit hole.
I'm going all the way through. I'm trying to figure out. So basic, because I don't like saying false info. I'm guessing what the source of what that was is what they're saying is that the Paris court dismissed the lawsuit of because Brigitte,
that was the original
right?
one,
the original.
So
those two YouTubers, right? So
they dismissed that
one.
Yeah,
right. That's which is interesting to me, and I guess maybe that
defamation's a high bar to clear in France,
Yeah.
and this is just a difference between the American and the European legal system.
So to the viewers, I just want to apologize because I need to be more clear when making massive claims. So I want to apologize for that sincerely.
The European legal system is very different from ours. Defamation is actually weirdly enough a harder bar to clear there.
Yeah.
Because while we have free speech laws, they're very clear about what is and isn't defamation. There, it's much more open for interpretation, especially because of the way the language actually works.
Does it?
Like the language literally works a different way from the way that our language does.
I mean, you might not know the answer to this. We might have to consult legal, but does defamation stand ground in on foreign soil? If we have, let's just say, freedom of speech here in states.
Well, it's always a question of where's the church where does the judicial system that you're operating within, where does it actually have jurisdiction? Like that's why they're filing the suit in American court as well, because that's where the jurisdiction actually lies.
So
it's possible the defamation case in France may be thrown out because there's no jurisdiction because Candace Owens is not a French citizen. She's not beholden to the European Union or France's laws.
And maybe what you saw was referencing that.
Well, no, because that case is still ongoing.
I'm just
what
saying,
he's talking about is dead.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Maybe somebody or whatever intel.
That could be the reason.
Yeah, I didn't give enough detail, so it's just like making a big claim, and then I don't want to imply that it's about the current case. I want to be clear on what I'm actually talking about. So,
because let's be clear too. Like I still read French. Like I can read War and Peace in French, but I cannot read French court documents. I do not have that skill set.
Yeah.
So like we're talking about something that's so far removed from our ability to understand.
100%, and that's why I say you'd need to consult legal, or we'd need to consult legal because
exactly
we don't know what the bounds or boundaries are of that defamation case.
Exactly.
Right. Let's get back on track. So what was the church question?
So the church questions, do pastors truly believe this, or is it about keeping the congregation engaged? So we were referencing a conversation about belief versus political injection, because a lot of pastors who are preaching about end times and having these sermons, and it always seems to happen during global crisis, are talking about how we as Christians should be supporting Israel. And I think Charles brought up the idea of that, as Christianity, you believe the Jews are the chosen people. Why aren't more people converting? But why are pastors...
To be clear, if we're going to go with the dispensationalist, in my opinion, heresy of, well, Jews are God's chosen people, I don't believe that. But if that's what they're preaching, which is what it appears to me they're preaching,
right,
why wouldn't you say, okay, well, let's give up on Pentecostalism and go back to Judaism?
100%.
Like, why would you subscribe to a religion that says that you're not God's favored person? Like, just human, like basic human psychology. Like, why would you sign up to be subordinate in your faith and believe that God cares about another group of people more than you? It literally makes no sense.
Well, we got here
like kind of humanistic
because we were talking about Christians United for Israel. Recently had lobbying power in 2018 during the Jerusalem embassy move as well. So John Hagee pastor is lobbying a lot of money, influencing a lot of U.S. policy and public opinion to sway what we can. And I think he's probably the one behind the reason why we can't talk about Izzy in specific ways or do things as well because he lobbied enough money and power to put those and implement those rules and regulations. But are these pastors now starting to cross that line of preaching faith, or are they starting to use faith to drive political scripture?
That's the oldest trick in the book. Use religion to make political moves. That's why people.
What was the Holy Roman Empire?
Right, exactly. You partnered with the Pope, who was supposed to be the ultimate chosen one, right? But that's kind of the difference between the gospel and the Jewish or Zionist. I'll just say Zionist because I feel like there are so many good Jewish people out there. And I think that's who the Bible is referencing when God returns, when Jesus returns, and on his horse and with his angels, and all the knees will bow. I think that is the Jews that the Bible is referring to. These other Jews, I think they're just not Jews. They're just Zionists. They're Ashkenazi.
And Sephardic.
Yeah, Sephardic.
Yeah,
European,
in a sheep cloak. Yeah.
European.
No,
that's the philo group they belong to.
Yeah, the actual.
That's taxonomically what they are.
Yeah, the ethnicity, like nationalists, they're the synagogue, like just generally they're the synagogue of Satan, dude. Like it's pretty straightforward. They have their. It's almost like so. Something I read was that the Catholics and the Zionists are actually very similar in that the Zionists are pretty much identical to what the Pharisees were. Like the Zionists are a what's the word for, like, the descendants. The descendants of the Pharisees, and the Catholics are the descendants of the Sadducees. They just have that branding, that title. That's why a lot of times Catholicism uses that, like, shame and go to a guy and confess and all that stuff, and then then they had their, like, catechism, which is basically kind of the same thing as the Talmud, except the catechism, at least when I went through catechism as a young Catholic, doesn't have all of that crazy weird stuff that the Talmud has, where it's like literally says Jesus is in hell boiling in excrement. Like, that is literally words out of there. The other excerpts, I spent a lot of time in the catechism there. I've never seen anything that weird.
Right.
Yeah, it just kind of makes me sick to even say that, but it's like.
Yeah, and I think that, like, the deeper level issue with all this too is like, the thing that's always, like, thrown me for a loop, why all these different organizations have such a boner for Israel, is Israel is literally, it's a secular country. They allow abortion. Like, they are the gay capital of the Middle East.
There's also no extradition laws if, say, a pedophile were to get hit up on whatever they got hit up on. They can go to Israel and they cannot be extradited from there.
Well, it's an ethno-state. Yeah. Like, that's what it is. So it's kind of just kind of this weird, it immediately begs the question, it's like, well, why?
Yeah.
And then the why is because of AIPAC and all these different organizations that do all these different funding arms. I would wonder where a lot of John Hagee's money has come from. I would never allege anything, but, it's just kind of like this question of, okay, well, if you can ask questions about something, that's fine. But if you ask a question and then you're told that you're evil for asking the question, well, that doesn't make me stop asking the question. It makes me realize, oh, I'm onto something.
Well, and I think this awakening is, I'm going to call it an awakening, is really kind of prompting a lot of people to ask those questions. And that's why I say there's a great divide on the Republican Party right now, because you have some Republican figures that are actually supporting Israel, and you have other Republican figures that are like, no, I want to ask questions. Like, what the hell is going on here? Like,
yeah, people are kind of like finally kind of supporting Thomas Massey's what they thought previously to Charlie Kirk were unhinged claims. Now that Kirk has happened and folks are waking up and people are connecting the dots, there probably are people that are accepting money from AIPAC who are like, oh shit, maybe Massey had some good points and I have to reevaluate where my money's come from. And now they're asking their advisors and whoever else, like, hey, can maybe, and this is just speculation, right? But maybe they're trying to find ways to unsign that contract with the synagogue, right? And then maybe they're like, oh, well, maybe I'll be next if I do that. So we're just in a really weird place. The beauty about American politics, however, is that separation of power. It's the any normal person, and you can see that by the libtards that are getting voted into city councils and stuff across the country. Any of us could go run just with enough initiative and having enough conversations and probably get into and have some political influence in our respective areas and grow as we must. So
Well, I think that
there's no other place in the world you can do that.
I think that Matt Gaetz is actually a good example of why that still isn't possible in our current political system. Matt Gaetz made it all the way in, and then he started making comments, started noticing things, and then he was pretty quickly during his Senate, I remember Senate confirmation hearing, he was not going to get the votes. There was never a time when he was going to be AG, and now we have Pam Bondi instead, and I think we all see how that's going.
But he can still have his influence respectively to where his position is at.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just not
Speaking and doing are so different, though.
Still starting from the bottom and getting to where he's at now. That says a lot more. Like, obviously, there can only be one AG, right?
What is his role right now?
Oh, he's a political commentator. He's a pundit.
Okay, I was going to say, because he was
a senator.
A senator.
Yeah. And then he was going to be the attorney general. And then during his confirmation hearing, he had to leave his position in the Senate to essentially do this. And then he did. It was either that or he wasn't running for re-election again. And then it became very obvious in the first day of his confirmation hearing they were never going to let him in.
And they probably just did that to get him out.
Well,
you gotta be smart.
Well, I
wonder too.
He's talking. He's not talking bad, but he's talking against what was going on.
Well, fucking Megyn Kelly is. Megyn Kelly. I remember years and years ago when Megyn Kelly was on Fox News and she cried because something happened to Israel. I bet she still would now. But
she still was when they were having conversations with Charlie Kirk right before he died.
But
you can't say that, Charlie.
Well, I don't think she was saying that because she thought that it was wrong. I think she was saying that because she realizes where the political power lies, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. But she didn't want her friend to die.
But more and more, it's becoming a question of what are the American people willing to allow? I think that when we see the boomers start to go further and further away from political power by dying, unfortunately, I think that we're going to see a lot of changes to our relationship with the country. And I think that they have to get rid of the Likud government. They probably have to moderate a lot of what they do if they're going to continue being an ally.
There's something trending on X and TikTok right now. It's the hashtag America run by Israel. We're no longer run by our own U.S. government.
Well, and here's the other thing too.
Never have been.
Well, here's the thing too. That's the one we talk about the most. But then also we talk about Fang Fang with Chris Swalwell. Mm-hmm. We talk about the fact that American universities accept 400,000 plus Chinese students a year, and then we always find out every single year that some of them are selling secrets back to China. Especially the ones who are working at Boston University, Harvard University, and Boston especially, which has a research reactor underneath it.
See, and that's where that one gal that I shared with y'all was going to, because even here in our home city, there's a lot of influence from Izzy, because Military City USA, a lot of what CUFI does, or Christians United for Israel, they help find contracts for companies and contractors in Israel within our own government.
Yeah.
They are the biggest self-defense provider. Or security self-defense provider in the country.
I'll say it again. When I put stuff in my concealed carry handgun, it's always IMI hollow points, because those fuckers never don't shoot. I hate to say, it's true. But the problem, I think the problem more and more is that people are realizing it, and I think that the blowback is going to be disproportionate. I really do think so, which is unfortunate. That begs to ask the question, do you think people are going to run more towards faith, or do you think they're going to run more towards politics? I think that the church system has been so compromised. I think that people, every Sunday, I read books like City of God by St. Augustine. I read scripture, but I don't go to church, and I haven't for a very long time. And the reason why is the church system does not align with my values, and there really isn't one that does. I think that more and more people, it's kind of like the question of the whole political system. It's what does right and left even mean anymore? What does the church even mean anymore, really?
Well, what it's supposed to mean is community. So it's just a central place for iron to sharpen iron. I do think it's an important part of your spiritual development, but you also have to put yourself in a place that is on your level and above, so that you can have something you can fall back on and trust as far as with your community. Church is
the best
community.
The best spiritual debates I've ever had have always been on the internet, or with friends outside of a religious
But
context.
you have to elevate your congregation.
Yeah, but
so find a congregation that can keep up with you theologically or challenge you theologically in person, because this is where you're going to sharpen your points to go out and disciple. Because the point of church is not necessarily our own spiritual development for ourselves. The point of church is our own spiritual development so that we can disciple others, because that's the ultimate goal.
I think you say it perfectly too, because that's the ultimate question, right?
Yeah.
It's like, if pastors are getting so involved with keeping their congregation engaged with political influence, like it becomes harder and harder for people and boomers and younger generations to connect, because they don't support those ideologies or those theologies.
That supports the false light doctrine, right? So a lot of these evangelical churches, actually, there's a FAR leak where $400 million Israeli campaign, there's an $4 million Israeli campaign targeting evangelical churches, and this is per the full article is on slightlyoffensive.com, dated October 10th of this year. But basically, in some newly revealed FARA documents, they reveal a $4.1 million Israel influence campaign geofencing U.S. churches, tracking worshipers' phones, and using celebrity pastors to push pro-Israel messaging to evangelical Christians. So if you're at your church and you're feeling like your dissonance, your spiritual dissonance is telling your discernment, I should say, is telling you that something doesn't feel right about this, maybe you need to run from that church. And
that's the point. It's like then you go to another one and it's the same thing.
It's like trying. It's just like people. When we're out networking and finding people, and I'm meeting people, I can decide, okay, I don't want to work with you. You kind of suck, or you're kind of awesome. You are on my plane of existence, right?
Here's a deeper level of the problem, I think, and this is just me talking personally, and I think that a lot of people my age have had this exact experience. There are certain substances you can do where you have a instantaneous, undeniable spiritual experience, one that you cannot experience in this physical mortal realm that we live in right now. What do you do with that?
So that to me there might be demons. Don't forget that the Bible says that the devil...
Oh, I know they are.
Right, so that's
some of them you go, and some of them aren't.
God has the answers for everything, and what the Bible tells us, if we want to have an elevated spiritual experience, just fast. It's just mind-boggling to me that I didn't really even no one impressed.
You can do breathing exercises, and it releases dimethyltryptamine into your bloodstream.
Yes, but nothing is like fasting. Absolutely. Let's say if you've ever done...
I've done both, and they're not even comparable.
If you've ever intentionally prayed during a 72 to 96 hour fast, or even past that, the vibrations you become so much more sensitive to those vibrations. So it just really depends. Are you intentional in your prayer? Are you intentional in your reading of the word? If you're fasting and reading the word, and I know what you're doing in that way, and it's super simple.
I probably don't. But I'll also say, that doesn't dispense with the fact that you can have an instantaneous spiritual experience in many different ways.
I don't want to have a spiritual experience with demons. I've had that, and it is not as fulfilling, or nearly as fulfilling. If anything, it's more dangerous of a slippery slope.
Well, let's say that you've done a certain substance 140 times, and yes, there are a lot of times where you go there and there is a demonic presence that entices you. But then there are many times where you go and there isn't, and it's something very different. It's something very different, and it makes you look at yourself and the things that are actually important to you, and actually brings you back closer to the faith.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that too. I'm not saying everybody can handle that, but it's what do you do when you've had that experience and the other experiences that you're talking about don't even come close?
Okay.
They don't even come close.
Good question. So are you satisfied with your life right now? Are you really happy with where you are in your life and the status of it? And does it feel like you have a clear path on what your purpose is right now?
Does anyone?
I do.
I don't.
That's how. Because I come from I was winging it, like you kind of have been.
And I enjoy that I have a good relationship with God.
No. I get it.
Yeah.
But and again, I'm not attacking or judging.
No, I know.
But I'm also I'm in my 20s. I had this very prideful, very independent, right? Like maybe there was times I felt like, well, I'm just unworthy of asking God for this. Maybe there was times where like, I got this, I don't want to bother God with my problems. These are actual things that I've actually said to myself in my journey, right? And all that ever did, it ended up in the same result. Me relying on myself, who always finds a way to self-sabotage and fail myself or other people.
I think we're having separate conversations.
No. This all ties in, because at the end of the day, right? Like, it wasn't until I actually started praying intentionally to Jesus. It wasn't actually until I actually started.
But I do.
I believe you do. Intentionally, like reading the Word, and then I got into a church that I felt like elevated me or sharpened me.
The third thing is the issue. Yeah,
So,
because it's like if I go to a church, I don't feel like I had that kind of connection.
I didn't either. I tried all kinds of churches, and I can tell you offline which ones that I tried to, and I was like, okay, now they're rolling out a TV during service. Like, I can do this from home, right? And so I didn't just find a church. I didn't just Google a church.
A lot of churches, a lot of churches feel like preschools.
Yes, 1,000%. You're damn right.
That's
Thank
exactly
you.
it.
And that's what I told.
And then I'm going to end on this point. It's not that I Googled a church and found one. I prayed for a church and it found me.
Right.
Dude, I promise you on everything. I verbally in my closet prayed for a church. I asked God to make me ready for that church. And somebody in the industry, and we started talking. He invited me out. He's an elder out there. I checked it out, and dude, I experienced a miracle, an actual miracle in front of the congregation in my second weekend there. And that day happened to be my dad's birthday, his first birthday after he died. So like legitimately, like it seems so fantastic to be able to pray your way out of situations or pray your way into situations, but that's because the world tells us that it's all fairy tales and Simba versus freaking Scar. Like, we are so brainwashed and indoctrinated into just not having faith. And so like that's the three weapons right there, right? It's like prayer, the Word, and finding a church. And why? So that we can sharpen our tool to disciple others.
And I didn't have that exact like storyline as to how I found my church, but it's just so odd how prayer awakens you to know where you want to be once you actually find your inner, like that. I call it my inner peace, right? Like, I pray and I pray and I pray, and we didn't just jump into a church, but it was one of those things where we pray and pray and pray, and eventually one of our friends was like, hey, we feel somebody praying that needs church, come with us.
It's so weird.
And we're like, wait, what? How did you even know? Like, my wife and I have been praying, like, we've been talking about it, like, intentionally leading with that faith and that prayer to find our answers. But I think that's what is going to draw the line with a lot of people. You mentioned this a moment ago, like being able to find that church where you could have that fellowship and you actually believe in the beliefs and it supports you through those times. I feel like there's a lot of false preachers nowadays.
Yeah. The majority of them are false preachers, dude. Like, narrow is the path.
You
of
mentioned like
right?
TVs, right? Like rolling TVs out and doing this and that. And I was telling Ty when I walked in, like, man, I could feel the energy. Like, we've tried multiple churches, and there are some churches here in town that I've been to that I'm like, this pastor's in it for the clout.
That might
like
work.
They are in it for that.
And that
fame
might work for a certain group of people until they're ready to elevate, until they're like, okay, this isn't fulfilling me anymore.
Yeah.
I
mean, I sat there and felt like I was in a locker room pep talk from my old soccer coach, where it's just like, none of it was like
word-based,
biblical based.
Yeah.
It was all just like
there's
motivation.
Just, information's just not compelling enough. Like it. Yeah,
I think too, like, and I know that this is hard because now we're both, all of us are talking about an experience that the other has not really had. Like, it is inescapable that you can go to a completely different dimensional space in your head and experience something completely different and experience what the people who actually wrote the Bible were fucking talking about, frankly. Including the encounters, like, with spiritual entities, whether they're true good or true evil, right? And it's so hard to come back and say, like, okay, well, let me have this mundane experience here. Does that make sense what I'm trying to say? It's intensely difficult. It's very hard. It's very hard to wrap your head around it, because you can go somewhere else and experience that instantaneously and, I mean, get I think a lot out of the experience,
Well, and I think that's where the churches,
especially something like dimethyltryptamine.
I don't want to say the churches are going to fail, but I think that's where the churches fail, right? They don't draw a line between actual biblical and teaching scripture and living in the image of God, right? They teach political motivation, that you're supposed to support a specific country because that's just the way it is, where there's nothing in the Bible that says you need to support these people, right, or this country.
Well, and I also immediately think about a book that I read, which I don't think I'll ever be able to get out of my brain, which is The Sacred Mushroom and the Cross, which is the idea that at a very far-flung point in the past, at the very earliest time of the teaching of the church, they used psychedelic mushrooms to get into that headspace, that spiritual space. And there's a shit ton of evidence around that, especially when they were converting the pagans up in the north, the European hinterlands, who were already doing those rituals. And a lot of the earliest missionaries saying, well, that's interesting. We have very similar rituals to you. And that was part of the conversion process.
I think the difference in the conversation is the dependence on that versus just the independence of connecting with God.
I agree. I think that's the problem.
I think there's right. So if you are essentially relying on said substance to connect with God when God's love and connection with you is free, that says more about the person's spiritual strength, right? Like if we are, it's like saying,
I think so on some
it's
level,
like
yeah.
saying I can't get to God unless I have this crucifix. I think is the same conversation as I can't get to God unless I have this mushroom.
Well, no, because the crucifix does nothing. It sits in your hand, but the mushrooms brings you to the realm where God actually speaks to you.
Spiritually.
If that is God.
And sometimes it isn't. But sometimes it fucking is.
Yeah.
It's hard. That's why I'm saying, like, we're having a conversation that's impossible to actually ascertain the truth of. That's the problem. It's a non-scientific conversation, which is hard for me personally.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've done trip reports. I haven't done substances. I know somebody who did 143 times. And when you look at the trip reports that were written out, it's very clear that every time there was a spiritual experience, with the exception of maybe 4 times.
Yeah.
And those are different in a totally different way.
So just throwing this in, this is way off spectrum. What do you think, or what do you say about people who claim to have had, I'm going to say claim because
of course,
claim
it
to
is
have
a
had
claim.
like a near-death experience?
Well, we know actually through different methods of testing, especially like EKGs, brain scans, and also chemoanalysis, that when somebody dies, their body dumps from the
Adrenal gland.
The pituitary gland. I was wrong there. The pituitary gland dumps out a large amount of endogenous dimethyltryptamine. NN, not DMT-50-ME, but NN dimethyltryptamine, which is the pure and more spiritual one. The other one kind of sends you this weird blank space. It's very uncomfortable. But no, you have that experience because that chemical is released into you, and that immediately begs the question, in my opinion, what is more real, the naturalistic experience you have when you take it endogenously inside of you, or exogenous where you're getting it from outside of you? I personally fail to see the difference.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of spiritual leaders whom I respect justify this argument with the question of what is your relationship with that substance versus what is your relationship with God. If you need that substance to have a fulfilling connection with God, then it can be a form of idolization versus, relying more so on how God tells us verbatim how to reach him.
Yeah, and I think I forget the quote in the Bible about that, but there is something in the Bible, because I actually haven't read it from cover to end in a good period, but where it talks about not wanting to physically be able to see the image of God, right? Like that is a something that we as humans should not want to see, because it's like an idealization of wanting the true image of God.
It's the begging of proof for something that should be based on faith.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. But then you do it and you go there and you see it anyways, and it's like, okay, well, why would God allow himself to be seen?
Yeah.
If that was the case.
I don't think he would. I think maybe I also find it interesting. Yeah, it's the false light thing, and that really worries me. And
I mean, the person that I know that did those things, they got over the death of somebody very important to them. They got out of a drug addiction. They got out of multiple different addictions, actually, including many that I think that anybody who of faith would say are bad and wrong for you.
Yeah.
And not only that, an encouragement to focus on what's actually important to you, which are the people in your life, the things that make a difference for other people. Yeah. And I failed to see a difference. Now, some of the things you see when you're there don't do that.
But that sounds like a healthy relationship, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just kind of.
In fact, I find from what I was told that these substances itself tells you to stop doing it when it's time to stop doing it.
Yeah.
And then if you do it again, you have a very bad experience.
Yeah, I did a hero dose of mushrooms after my dad died. The day after Thanksgiving. He died August 31st, 2023. I did it the day after Thanksgiving that year, so a little bit less than 2 months later. And it was kind of the same thing. You know, it was my first hero dose. It's not something that I do regularly.
8.5 grams?
5.5.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, that's the qualification for hero. What?
8.5 is the hero dose, but I would say that like anything over 4 is a fuck ton.
Yeah, it was a lot.
But 8.5 is like consciousness melting. You don't exist anymore. Your ego and your id and your super ego are all kind of just laid bare and separated.
So the purpose for going down.
I'm not discounting your experience.
I didn't take that any personally.
It's just scientifically, my brain is always like, well, actually.
Yeah, that's fine.
Well, actually.
So I didn't take that negatively, but like the point of it being that, you know, something I did that. I went down that road because I have treatment resistant depression.
Yeah.
Right. And so I tried everything up to that point with transcranial magnetic stimulation, Wellbutrin, Adderall, weed, everything. Literally tried everything. And so they hit me with the idea of maybe trying this hero dose thing. And I did notice for the next like 4 or 5 months, the depression cloud or whatever that is, you know, actually lifted. And oddly enough, right, it's supposed to like stimulate the regrowth of your what's the term, your neuroconnectivity, whatever that is.
What it does, so the mushrooms specifically, they resheath your myelin, the myelin coating. So the front part of the front part of your nerve that actually takes in the chemicals. So your brain, it shoots chemicals. It takes in the chemicals, it sends an electrical signal, and then that electrical signal sends more chemicals. Yeah. The myelin sheath is on the chemical part, and when it degrades, your ability to actually transfer the electricity correctly fades. It's kind of like the insulation on a wire. So when you do mushrooms, especially like lion's mane and certain other mushrooms that now escape my brain, unfortunately, my myelin receptors seem to be failing, your ability to retain long-term memory starts to fail. Alzheimer's is strongly associated with the degeneration of your myelin sheath.
Your mom has a nice myelin sheath.
Yes, she does.
Your mom said
she still remembers stuff.
Jeez, Napoleon.
Sometimes. But I would say too, it's kind of like I always think about actually the Dr. Rick Strassman's book, the Spirit Molecule. I think about the people who went in and were part of his clinical trials. And I think about the experiences they had, and I think about how some people ascribe it to aliens, some people ascribe it to like fourth dimensional beings. I think about like the experiences that Moses had. I think about the experiences that various people have had that were spiritual. And personally, I don't think there's a separation between the two. I think that consciousness, personally, this is just my soapbox, I think that consciousness is external, and I think our brain is like a radio set. And I think that whatever you're tuned to is what you get. If you're schizophrenic, that's why what we think of as demonic possession is schizophrenia. And what we think of as schizophrenia is demonic possession. There's no difference because the outcome is the same. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think that when you take those substances, all you're doing is changing the channel. And sometimes you change the channel and you don't get something very nice. And I think sometimes you change the channel and you get exactly what you were looking for. Mm-hmm. That's my opinion on it. And
then if you do too much or combine it with something, then you stay on that channel.
And there are people who have a predisposition. Like there are people who, they can't smoke weed. If they like, if you're in a legal state,
schizophrenia.
Yeah, you'll develop schizophrenia. Yeah, and it's because there's already an imbalance in a variety of different things. Although the chemical imbalance theory is already falling apart as we speak. So who knows how all this works? So that kind of becomes the question. It's like, what's real and what isn't. And when you have an experience where you see something that's realer than real and you experience something that's realer than real, everything else just kind of pales in comparison.
Crazy. So maybe prophecy preaching isn't, about predicting the end of the world. I don't know. It's about all trying to find meaning when everything feels out of control.
And I think that people constantly do that. I think that's why the Oracle of Delphi was as popular as she was in her day,
100%.
And I also would imagine, too, the soldiers who were fighting in the Somme when the shells were raining down upon them and the gas was everywhere, I imagine they must have felt like that was kind of the end of the world. And for them, a lot of them, it was. So it's kind of like, what even is the end of the world?
What's the true definition of the end of the world?
What does that even look like?
That's another argument that folks make, that there are antichrists for every generation.
Yeah,
I
and
can
I
see
would
that.
imagine, why would the devil stick on one?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't he be trying constantly? Is kind of my question. Think about when Satan posited to Jesus Psalm 91, and he was trying to tempt him into throwing himself off to show that he couldn't die, whereas Jesus knew that the point of him being there was to die for humanity's sin and was to act in that way as the Messiah. It's kind of like the if you play along with the actions of what evil wants you to do, you kind of lose in the first place.
Yep.
Playing the game is always the problem.
Yeah.
Kind of like OpenAI.
How so?
Heard that.
Huh?
Heard that.
Did you hear that?
No.
So OpenAI is planning to roll out an adult mode for ChatGPT, which is allowing verified users to request erotic and sexual content.
Mm-hmm.
What used to be science fiction is becoming
We're going to change the name of this
everyday
podcast
technology.
to ADHD disorder.
Digital intimacy on demand. ADHD.
We're going to start our own OnlyFans with
ChatGPT.
OpenAI and
And
freaking
yeah.
erotica. It's freaking weird.
Yeah, but I think there's a lot of questions wrapped up in that, and I think that the problem is, too, I don't think there are any answers, and the only time we'll actually get the answer is when it's too late for us to tell anybody. So that's kind of the problem with the whole thing, huh?
My big trip on this right now with the sexualization of technology, as I like to say, is that it gets into the hands of the youth.
Yes.
No matter, I mean, it's no different than like our young days, because we are all sinners, right?
I was molested.
Channel 90
I was molested by the
Right.
internet.
Well,
True.
you were probably the internet. Gary, you remember the old brown boxes that your parents used to have just to get the channel 100 and channel 99.
We didn't have those. My friends did.
Oh, okay, well, your friends, yeah. Channel 99 just so happened to be what was that gal's name? What's her Real Sex Talk lady?
Talking about HBO Thursday nights?
No, there was another. She was on Channel 99.
Oh, I don't know. I was scrambled.
Anyway, mine was scrambled too.
Apparently not.
not scrambled enough, but it was scrambled. But my mind immediately goes into like, before it was a fight, right? Before you had to play with the antennas and try and get it. Some days it works, some nights it didn't, whatever the case might be. Now it's going to be in the hands of every youth age child, right? How does OpenAI plan on mitigating the issue of unauthorized access?
They don't.
And they have no interest in doing so, by the way, too.
Exactly.
There's an ID check for OpenAI for verified users.
Well, the internet's going to go there regardless.
Yeah, it's going to be.
But it's also the same thing as like when I buy Tucker Carlson's out. By the way, you guys have such an amazing product. When you go to his website and buy Tucker Carlson's, all you have to do is say, "Yeah, I was born on this date. My date that they have me under is October 10th, 1972."
No. And then you're going to have parents they're going to have their 10-year-old kid that says, "Hey, all my friends have this. Can you verify me real quick?" And then they'll be able to log in whenever they just open the apps.
Yep. So the risk zone is kids can fake age verification or stumble into explicit AI roleplay. That's
insane, dude.
That's the real big issue. I mean, kids are getting so good with AI. They're using AI to leverage it against its own AI, right? Like, what's going to keep a kid or youth age child from going and creating an AI personality that's able to bypass that verification?
You know, you have been on point with these awesome segues for what I want to talk about. So
Digital ID.
Bravo today.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking digital ID.
Oh.
I'm talking. I want to. It's my Ready Set Parent segment. So shout out to Ready Set Parent on
Ready, Set,
IG.
Parent.
Really strong page with a lot of really cool research and stuff. But this segment is about modern parenting and how it just avoids all conflict. But some of the best lessons come from friction. Growth doesn't happen in the comfort zone. It happens in the pushback. There's 12 fights worth having with your kids. 1, the outside fight. Make them go outside. Let them get dirty, bored, sunburned. Nature builds grit in a way no screen ever will. The second thing, the work fight. Make your kids help at home. Even toddlers can pitch in. Work teaches ownership, effort, and belonging. The third thing, the meal fight. And I did this last night because we always eat in front of the TV. And last night I was like, guys, let's sit at the table. But the meal fight, eat together. Not because it's trendy, but because it's sacred. Family meals remind kids where they're anchored. Blows my mind how much I have not been doing that and have been failing my kids. The boredom fight. Don't rush to fix boredom. Let them sit in it. Stillness makes space for imagination. Number 5, the me first fight. Make them wait. Make them give the peace to someone else. Kindness starts in line. 6, halfway there, the awkward talk fight. Have the hard conversations. They'll cringe. You'll stumble. But silence doesn't protect them. Honesty does. The limits fight. Hold the line. Kids need to bump into boundaries. That's how they learn who they are and what the world expects. Actually, who knows what the freaking world expects these days? It's getting real weird out there. We should set the boundaries and let them know what we expect. So they're little us's instead of little weirdos that the world's making. The sleep fight. Bedtime isn't a suggestion. The brain, body, and mood depend on it. You can't outparent chronic exhaustion. The gratitude fight. Make them say thank you. Gratitude isn't automatic. It's planted, watered, and repeated until it sticks. Number 10, the apology fight. Make them say I'm sorry. Not to shame them, but to teach repair. Owning mistakes is grown-up work. 2 more. The screen fight. They won't set limits themselves. That's your job. Give their brain room to develop before the scroll takes over. And then lastly, the effort fight. Push them to try hard things, even when they want to quit, especially then. Not all fights are bad. Some grow muscle, some grow character. Pick them with love, hold them with grace, and one day they'll be grateful you did.
100%. I love that.
Thank you, Ready, Set, Parent.
Ready, Set, Parent. I was thinking of the name. You said it, Ready, Set, Parent. I like the number 10, right? The technology part of that. I think back to like my younger days and look at the youth now, and it seems like the youth is turned into, I hate to use the word, but youth has turned into zombies.
Yeah.
Right?
Don't give your kids unfair access to the
I
internet.
drive down the road
Ever.
in the morning watching kids literally walking to school like this. When their friends are within arm's length, they can have an easy conversation with each other. But also, I don't walk. Well, I do walk, but I drive down the street and I see kids just being sexualized so much, even from within their own households. Mothers letting daughters run out the door with tank tops and short shorts. The sexualization of these kids is what's driving preds nowadays, right? What's driving this sexuality, and why I feel like OpenAI is even considering this. What do you think about, somebody having CP, right? It's all going to be created at the hand of or the click of a button. Now, type in an easy script or an easy prompt, and you have it right at your fingertips. Whose kid is that? Is AI?
Apparently, that's already a thing on the dark web.
Well, and this
That's
is
what what's his name was talking about on Sean Ryan's podcast, Tim Tebow. They got they already have AI out there.
Tim Tebow's a big advocate of
that's what he
finding
was saying.
CP.
Yeah, and the dark web, they're literally pulling kids' pictures from people's Facebooks.
Fighting it, not finding it.
Fighting it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're literally pulling pictures of kids from the family's Facebooks, and then they're peddling AI made dark web AI stuff.
Well, and
of
this
all
is
that.
what I forget the software engineer that worked for OpenAI, the whistleblower that ended up, Clinton, we'll say, was coming out and saying is that OpenAI and ChatGPT and all these AI algorithms are collecting all this personal data and private data on us, including imagery that we're posting, and it's leveraging it to have influence on what it creates. So there could be images around about, Charles floating around, of you floating around, of me floating around, of your kids. And now we have this deep dive feature that could actually search the web, and we have all these people so quick to gravitate to, I need ChatGPT to search everything on my website because my business is on my website, my business is on my Facebook. So they're going and they're feeding Bing webmaster tools every single page to index it so that AI algorithms pick it up. Meanwhile, they don't realize they're inadvertently sexualizing these things because maybe they have pictures of the kids in their bathing suits, right? Of them on vacation, because they like to have that connection and that bond with their clients. Right.
Yeah, I think another thing too, like the issue that we're talking about, I think that digital ID is not like a plan. I think it's an inevitability. I think that's going to have to happen the same way that there had to be ID eventually for a group of citizens in a country. I just think I think unfortunately, like that's where it's going. I think that the internet as it exists now will not exist in the same way.
To say that it's not going there means that the Bible is wrong.
Yeah, well, then we're saying the same thing.
Yeah.
So I think it's
we are not arguing.
No, I think it's a total inevitability because it's just going to have to happen for those reasons and more.
Yeah.
And any societal ill is also balanced out by the societal gains to some level. I'm not sure if it even creates an equal, but that's where the balancing act comes from. It's like, well, if we're acknowledging right now that it is a problem that needs to be solved, that's one way to solve it. However, on the other issue, it does give the government more control over us. It's kind of an issue of the inevitability of evil and humanity's ability to propagate and propense evil.
Well, and here are some real world cases right now which is raising concern for that risk zone. Meta AI's personas flirted with minors before restrictions were tightened. There's a company, Replica, who has
Meta AI flirted with teenagers?
In Meta AI, you can now create your own personas. So like you could do it for Instagram, you could do it for Facebook. You could actually go create your own AI to engage and interact as you, powered by you. Mm-hmm. And Meta AI personas are this one flirted with minors. So just imagine this. I'm going to soapbox for a second. You're a developer, or let's just say you're a CP, right? And you want to go and get as much engagement as you possibly can because that's what you feed off of. They could go train an AI model to engage with as many
and groom kids,
children as possible and groom them.
Yeah, because the problem is AI doesn't think about what it's doing. I mean, anybody who's used it, like especially like some of the early Grok and some of the early GPTs, like they would just give you the most effluent, effervescent praise about the most mundane shit. The entire point of those systems is to do what the end user wants it to do. That's the issue with it. And then also it's like, I think about malicious code, and I think about like Trojans specifically. Trojans is like, for those who don't know,
not condoms.
It's computer code that is designed to infiltrate your computer under the guise of a different exe or like application system, and then execute the malicious code in tandem with whatever thing that you downloaded. I think about how there's always a constant arms race between the people who are trying to stop those things from working and the people making them work. It's kind of an unsolvable issue what we're talking about.
Right, 100%. Well,
because eventually you'll make something useless.
Well, the other part to that is before we were worried about one-to-one, right? Now we're worried about one-to-many because of the world of automation. Yeah. So now how many kids is that persona actually engaging with, because it can engage with multiple at one time.
Yes.
Right? There was another instance in Italy. Replica chatbot formed romantic and sexual bonds with users before Italy even banned it from minors.
Yeah.
And now the U.S. Attorney General is warning AI firms to see children through the eyes of the parent, not the predator.
Well, and that's why the
Finally,
U.S.
they say something that makes sense.
That's why the U.S. government cut this deal with OpenAI, because the point is they're bringing them in under the umbrella and they're going to start imposing restrictions on the way that it's used.
Well, they have to.
They have to. Yeah, it's kind of like, well, and I think about like the things that I saw on the internet back in like 2006 to 2014. It's like, it's fucking crazy, and nobody should really see a lot of the things that you could see at that time on the internet.
Talking about rotten.com.
Oh, I'm talking about way worse than that, brother, man. And it kind of turns into this whole question of like,
What the fuck?
way worse than that. There's it's like, how do you protect people? And then
No wonder you're taking DMT.
it always I didn't take
Allegedly.
it. Somebody who isn't me took it.
My bad. I misunderstood what you were saying earlier.
I've never done a single drug in my life, to be honest
bad.
with you. Yeah. The thing is too,
I've
when
never done mushrooms either.
nobody ever has, it's all spook.
So I was just
Mushrooms are fantasy.
speaking for someone else.
Yeah, it's all
By
spook.
I meant this guy named Charles. I mean, Ernest. I mean, it's not Gary.
The problem is at the core of all these issues, it's like there's a balance between freedom and not having freedom. And it's kind of like, where do we get to the point where everyone's bubble wrapped? And I think that the problem is the way that technology works, the way the human mind works, will always eventually end up wrapped in bubble wrap anyways. And the versions of AI that we'll have are going to be no smarter than like a basic chatbot that we had before. The problem is that you have to neuter these systems in the first place when they're spreading information. And I just kind of wonder, like, okay, well, what's the actual efficacy at the end of the day? And will eventually you need to have a license to use a more powerful model? And that's probably where it's all going.
Well,
Right now, the license is financial only, but eventually it'll also be a government oversight question, too.
Well, and I talk to a lot of like high figure people in the tech industry still, because I have those connections with them, and we talk about it in our chats all the time. It's like, it's the rise and fall of AI, literally. Not saying that we shouldn't fear this, because this could be a 10-year, 15-year window.
Oh, hell no. It's moving faster than ever. It's going to be a 5-year thing.
We hope. I can just tell you from chatter with people in the actual realm of technology, we hope it's only a short-lived period, but it's the rise and fall of AI, right? Like, AI ultimately will become so questionable at some point that people should start tuning it out or not using it any longer, because it walks the fine lines of not only ethical scenarios, but also legal bounds.
I think the other thing is, too, right now, for the purpose of like internet discussions and internet opinions, AI is already indistinguishable from most people, is the problem. And not only that, I mean, you can go back to like early 2012 certain websites.
35 seconds, guys.
That where you would be having conversations with somebody who thought that was a person, but it was actually just a chatbot responding to keywords in your phrase. It's like we've been there for longer than AI has existed.
So Gary moment on Truth to Sorter. You heard it here first.
Forced. You heard it here
Forced.
first.
Stand by for the massive power grid shutdown, and then they turn it back on, and you won't be able to access it until you get your digital ID, and you are fully embedded into the beast system.
I don't think they'll have to. I think that people will beg for it.
Yeah, no, it's exactly why they're shutting it down.
They won't have to shut it down.
Yeah, they'll shut it down. That's why it'll be even more desperate, because then they're going to be begging for their phones. They're going to be begging for their air conditioning. They're going to be I'll be begging for air conditioning. All right.
A moment ago we were begging for it, talking about the CP issue.
Yeah.
We didn't think we were, but we were.
So
they won't have to shut it down. It'll just happen naturally. Unfortunately,
just don't be surprised when they do.
Whatever happened to the day and age of actually hard like work? You know, we as society and a human race have come so reliant on the simplicity of life, and life was never meant to be easy.
Oh, agriculture! Why did we ever invent you?
We're out of time, boys.
Next week on Truth Disorder.
Heckin' yeah.